This was one of the biggest medical disasters in history. In the late 1950s, a new pharmaceutical was being introduced called thalidomide, and it was a miracle cure for morning sickness for pregnant women. Doctors and patients loved it. It was marketed as being safe, and it really seemed like a medical miracle for a little while. But by 1961, thalidomide was pulled off of shelves worldwide. Why, you ask? Because thousands of babies were being born with severe malformations. Some babies were born with tiny arms and legs or missing limbs. Some were born blind, deaf, or with internal organ damage. And some babies didn't survive at all. It turns out the earlier the mother took it in her pregnancy, the more severe the damage was. People were obviously devastated, and this caused a lot of public panic, and a lot happened subsequently. But first, let's talk about how this happened. And it turns out it comes down to one oversight. And that was that thalidomide was never tested on pregnant animals. At the time, drug testing wasn't nearly as regulated as it was today. And there just wasn't a regulation for companies to test how a medicine is affecting a developing embryo. It was just kind of assumed to be safe. So when thalidomide finally was tested on pregnant animals, the results were the same. The animals were giving birth to babies with same malformations. This tragedy transformed many people's lives, and it also transformed the way medicine is developed. The field of toxicology was born because of this tragedy. The world started to demand rigorous testing of medicine before it could reach human patients. Most of the people affected were in the UK. It never made it to the United States, and it's actually all thanks to the efforts of this woman. This is Frances Oldham Kelsey, the official in charge of the FDA review of the medicine thalidomide. And she refused to approve the drug until she saw evidence that it wasn't harmful to pregnant women, which ultimately it was. So thanks to this woman's due diligence, she saved countless lives, and she actually received an award from President Kennedy. There's also a corporate greed component to this story, because initially the victims received no compensation from the manufacturers of thalidomide. It took years of legal battles and public outrage to finally make things right. And in 1973, a settlement was reached and the Thalidomide Trust was established to support survivors. If we're to learn anything from the thalidomide tragedy, it's that we have to learn from history so that we don't make the same mistakes again, and that this wasn't just a failure of science, it was a failure of responsibility.